Hey everyone, this is Kayla with March and Ash. And before we get to the show, I wanted to let you know about a great chance for $7,100 store credit as part of our 710 celebration. So from June 10th to July 10th, go to marchandash.com/710 to sign up for your chance to get $710 store credit. For more details, go to marchandash.com. Enjoy responsibly.
Olas Media. This is Cannabis Enlightened with Dr. Leroy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cannabis Enlightened, brought to you by March and Ash. I am your host, Dr. Leroy. And once again, we are delighted to have the folks from Olas Media produce Cannabis Enlightened as they put their magic touch on all my podcasts. And happy Juneteenth to everyone. And the program that we put together is called Cannabis Private Equity Group, as a good friend of mine has determined, CPEG. And the first clients in this program are going to be people that you're going to hear from today. Derek and Robin Kraft, who are just fantastic entrepreneurs. They've done a magnificent job. And, I just can't wait to speak to them. But before we do, joining me to kick this off today is a young man that has his own podcast, his own dynamic manner. Deontay Grayson, better known as
Mr. Wowzer. Anyere Mashir Panya Raz Klats and Bama Klats. I'm really excited to be on Cannabis Enlightened again, Dr. Leroy. Hello.
Deontay said again because we've done a show together a couple of years ago in which Deontay was dynamic.
Thank you.
Dynamic, he had to get his own show. But you know what? What I want to do is go straight to Derek and Robin and their brand, Elevate, and the social equity program that we put together with March and Ash and Elevate, because it is just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I think some of you are saying, well, what the heck is social equity? And, I been with Derek and Robin, I guess last week, and I heard Derek talk about social equity. So I'd like him to explain to the audience what social equity, or what a social equity cannabis business, what that is. So, Derek, take it away.
How you guys doing? Social equity in cannabis, what it means. Social equity in cannabis is basically a program or initiative, for lack of better words, throughout the whole state of California, and throughout the United States now, where the government has set aside funding and opportunities for people in certain social classes and neighborhoods that were affected by the war on drugs. So what this is doing is trying to, just broaden the diversity within the cannabis industry. And so there's these programs that are around that are offering, different types of things and programs and assistance and funding and things of that nature to help those people who were affected closely by the war on drugs. And that basically gives you your status for the enrollment.
Okay. Could I say negatively affected, or when we just say affected by the war on drugs, that says it all?
I mean, it's affected in general. I mean, there's neighborhoods. I mean, we go down a whole history thing about this. I mean, you guys are probably familiar with redlining. You guys are familiar with, neighborhoods, ghettos, and so on and so forth. These are just neighborhoods in general. Now, I hate to use the term, I guess you said affected?
Yes.
Or what was the term?
Negatively affected.
Yeah, so we're all negatively affected by, lack of better terms, being and belonging to these neighborhoods that we were born and raised in. So because of that, we were given opportunities just to be included into an industry that obviously won't and probably won't have enough room for us in it eventually.
Well, I think that's a good point that you brought that up, DC, because like he said, I would hate to use the word negatively affected too, because it wasn't our choice to be in regions, kind of being put in a cage.
True.
Where, you know what I'm saying?
True. But sometimes you don't know that you're in a sub neighborhood or a neighborhood that's not quote unquote regular until you get older, because you're in the neighborhood that you're in.
Right.
And you're growing up how you're growing up.
Right.
So everything is everything.
Damn, that
right?
was well said, yeah.
So I want to make sure that our listening audience recognizes that Derek and Robin are you're up in Oakland?
Sacramento,
going north.
Sacramento.
Yeah, and with us remotely as we do this podcast. So we appreciate you tremendously, because as an entrepreneur, and I think Derek has pointed this out to us many times, you do many, many things.
Yeah, unfortunately, I kind of have to, especially in this space. I mean, it doesn't give a lot of opportunities to those. It doesn't give a lot of opportunities to even those that got some skills. This space is really, really unforgiving. It doesn't weigh on the unseasoned entrepreneur at all. So if there's people who are interested in joining this industry and lack the experience or the relationships, I would advise otherwise, just based on my experiences. But there are efforts to kind of help promote and help support social equity campaigns and social equity people. The state of California really that program hasn't too much been effective. I don't know if it's because of obviously when they hire people in certain positions to run these programs, oftentimes these people are, hired by the state and they're shuffled around by department, and they have no knowledge, they have no information, they have little infrastructure built up to help make sure that these people are successful.
Right.
So what they're doing is they're using the amount of money, which I guess they determined was to be an effective amount of money in this umbrella of a program, for multiple reasons, probably more so political than not. I mean, that's a whole nother topic, but these programs are just developed to say, hey, you know what, we gave these people a chance, we tried, and then when big business and big pharma comes in, they don't have to get the backlash that people who were marginalized didn't get an opportunity in $1 billion enterprise, and now we have to work for the same people.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Sure. Go for it.
So I wanted to backtrack on you saying unfortunately. Now, are you saying unfortunate because of what social equity, the term, has become now? When people hear social equity, it scares business away because of all these stigmas around it. It kind of looks like a play that's not going to be a play, if that makes sense.
The unfortunate instances that I've experienced with social equity are a couple things. One, nobody really cares about it, right? Even the people who are supposed to care in the industry don't technically really care, because they feel like, once again, I got all the brothers getting a handout, right? People hate affirmative action. People hate contributing to causes that they know are from people who are suffering because they're not getting the same equal treatment. We lack resources, we lack funding, and then it victimizes us in a sense to where people don't want us to play victim, or they don't want to give us the acknowledgement that we're equal, that we stand on the same ground, since we need help, right? So the term social equity in the cannabis industry is not a favorable one by the people who've been around the industry for a while. And it's really not even one of those ones or one of those words or terms that even people who don't understand it, I don't know. I don't think they feel that impacted by it. I don't feel like they think that it's that big of a deal, because it's just a situation that we're faced in. We're in cannabis.
I really like the way you framed that, Derek, and answering Deontay's question. And I think this would be a good time to bring the social equity, Derek and Robin and March and Ash together as to, how this project, how this program happened. And I'm going to ask my co-host to, help me with this too. But
I honestly have a question for you.
Yeah. Oh, you have a question for me?
Because
Okay.
for the listeners that's listening right now, a lot of the things that's going on with CPEG, literally everything that's going on with CPEG is because of Leroy having a plan for how many years, would you say?
God. The years that I taught the business of cannabis, I did that for about 5 years.
Word.
Yeah.
5-year vision. So Leroy, what made you in cannabis business?
I saw as I was teaching, and I think I've mentioned to the audience on previous podcasts that I'm a retired business professor, and the last 5 years of my professional life there at San Diego City College, I taught the business of cannabis. Okay, so one of the things that kept coming through to people, and the classes were always packed. One of the things that kept coming through is that in starting a business, we can get some money or some loans, but we need other things. We need other support. And I saw that the support that they needed was the kind of support that March and Ash has, which is the full business, full line of business. Not just, I think people think that the cannabis business is something that you just, put a sign up, open the doors, and they will come.
Oh, they did. We seen proof of that with the illegal market.
And I think you can verify the fact, Derek, that it's not that way. There's a lot of moving parts that have to be attended to in the cannabis business, a lot of which March and Ash has already, put together, starting it, make mistakes, And it was my vision that we could help a new business over those rough roads if we bring them in and have a partnership. We invest. And that's what we've done with Elevate, with Derek and Robin.
Another question I have for you is, so were you the one that actually reached out to March and Ash because you realized that with March and Ash early on?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that.
As you said, I submitted a paper as I started. I think it was into maybe the third or fourth podcast. I said, let me go for it. Let me submit this and see what they think. And before I knew it, there was Deontay Grayson writing up a program. It was just crazy. It was crazy. And then it was almost the next day we were introduced to Derek. This has been, how many years, Derek, have we been trying to bring this together?
Over
3 years. Yeah. And I would have to say that I felt the hesitation from Derek when we first met on a Zoom call because of the type of things that I think you've had to go through starting your business. People would say, we can help you, but then they don't come through. Or if they say they can help you, it's with a loan as opposed to a grant. So you got to pay stuff back. So you got to pay stuff back while you're trying to start a business, while you're not sure what your sales are going to be. You got to pay something back. Now, in fact, that kind of helps you, but you need more than that. It's more than the money. And I think maybe you can speak to that, Derek. Would money alone be a sufficient asset to you?
Great question.
Short answer, no.
Okay.
Money alone is not going to help anybody in this industry. I mean, for me, it's really basic. I think the surveys and studies and the information is out. I mean, you have to look at companies throughout the state that are doing well from, outside looking in, and look at their infrastructure and look at how much capital they've raised and look at how many positions and different things that it takes them to run their business. Mm-hmm. I oftentimes, before I look into, what it takes for me, I have to kind of compare apples to apples with some of the best, or some of the ones that are actually in the game. And so everybody needs money to start a business, but money is so low on the totem pole because of how difficult this is, that it's oftentimes used as just like the Band-Aid to get somebody going and get people interested in different things like that. But you need so much more. You need literally so much more.
So it's not to cut you off. So, because now I got to ask both of you guys, because we're in this program and we see the cannabis industry. If we're going to do apples to apples with business to business, alcohol and cannabis, right? It's pretty much the same exact thing with how it outlined. It was a black market in alcohol, black market here. It's hard to regulate it. It wasn't as hard to put alcohol on feet, though, as it is with cannabis. It didn't have the raising capital parts. So it's making me think, did they infrastructure the cannabis business like this to intentionally keep African Americans out? Because it's kind of structured like it's just for a white MSO, where you have shareholders, where you have to have these pieces in order to have a successful cannabis business. It's kind of, the alcohol industry definitely didn't have that.
Right.
I would have to take a page from Derek's book and say, short answer, yes. However, I think I would expand it to say not just people of color, but people that don't have money. If you don't have money to put into the cannabis business, you're not going to go anywhere. The money and the knowledge. I remember prepping to teach the class, and quickly I found out that the people that know the most about the cannabis business were in prison. Now that is a truism.
That's super true.
They're in prison, and they know how to run the business from the ground up.
Yeah.
From finding the product to packaging the product to putting it on the shelves to selling it, the whole 9 yards. They know how to do that. The people that I would come in contact with at a lot of the cannabis fairs and so forth, and conferences and what have you, they were just figureheads. They said, here's the product we have. But you start asking them questions and they don't have it.
Wow.
They don't have it.
Yeah.
But when I spoke to people who had literally been to jail with respect to cannabis, they could talk to you all day and night.
Right, because they were in and out.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because, like you said, if it is like that, that's probably why the steam is moving so fast and why descheduling is going to be what it is, or why it's being descheduled now, because they're drug dealing us.
Yeah.
You want a cannabis business, it costs this much. Like, whoa, okay. You dealing me.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure that our listening audience understands, or that I have been plain enough to say that as March and Ash has involved themselves in this business with Elevate, with you, Derek, and Robin, it is as investment, as a partnership, not to take over. We have no vision to take over. We want you to be successful on your own. But the ecosystem that you need to drive your company is what we need, and what we need to provide, and what we are providing you to help you to be successful.
It's agreed upon before you speak, because for the listeners that don't know and for the brands that don't know about how Derek's ecosystem is, it's just him and his wife doing everything.
Amen.
So Derek wears so many hats when it comes to designing the product, to sourcing the product, to bringing the product down. And there's a lot more hats outside of that. He has to talk to us for hours, outside of him having a family and doing trainings and stuff. And it's very important to understand that this is the type of route you're going to take as an entrepreneur that is a social equity recipient, about to be in a private equity program. It's stressful.
Yeah. This podcast is the first time that I have had an opportunity to be on a Zoom with Derek, and he's not on the road.
Bro, really though, you're not even in the car.
You're not in the car. So The only thing,
I thought he was gonna be sitting in the car. Y'all ready?
and that is a result of the hats that Derek wears. And he says, like, I want to talk to you, brothers. I really like you, but like, I got to support my family.
Oh, yeah.
A wife and 3 children. I gotta pay the bills, and I can't pay the bills sitting talking to you guys.
No, yeah. It's a lot of it's a lot of tasks, a lot of responsibilities. I mean, like I say, I go to the best companies, the A companies, the B companies, and see if I'm going to rank them from 1 to 3. I take a look at their infrastructure. I take a look at what they have, what they do, who's on their sheet, who's on their board. You can kind of model all the roles and responsibilities it needs in order to be quote unquote successful, right? So then you take a page out of my book where every seat that's taken from a regular company, like I fulfilled myself without no actual technical infrastructure, no actual technical finance or investment or anything like that. I have everything is out of my own pocket. I package my own product. I source my own product. Most, if not all, the vendors who accept my product are relationships that I've built, and they take time, and they take hours, and they take years sometimes to even materialize. So that's a whole nother situation. So there's no point click, pass go collect $200 situation here. I'm driving to go get my own stuff. I'm delivering my own stuff. I do my own trainings. I do my own this. I do my own that. Whereas typical companies, more capitalized companies that have backers and investors and silent partners and infrastructure and you name it, can put people in certain positions to have salaries and different things like that. I operate on 0 salary. I operate on 0 contributing economic monies from outside resources. I mean, everything is really just directed by myself. So it does make it hard. It makes it challenging, and next to impossible.
Let's talk about your brand for a minute, okay? How did you come upon even the name, and then what is the product that you have on the shelves? And I would say your product is in all the stores, all the March and Ash stores. So you also talk about that.
So this is the product that I have right now is one of many that I want to bring to light. Right, it was the lowest hanging fruit, and I have to talk about the because there's some listeners who probably are interested in coming into the industry. Right, so so I'm trying to give a little insight as to direction as to why the brand is the way it is currently. Right, but there's more to come. So right now the product is it's a living soil option. It's cheap, it's great, it's at an affordable price. And this is what I introed with to start the brand. The reason why is because I felt it was that, it was the lowest hanging fruit, after several months and years of conversation, just something to get started, something to kind of get a proof of concept done, something to kind of get the customers and, the buzz going a little bit. And that was that. So, that's the product. The way I came up with the name Elevated for me was not like a catchy phrase. I don't have like any celebrity sponsors and nothing crazy like that. Elevated to me is just more like a lifestyle. It's a way of being. It's like, the kind of conversations I want to have, the kind of people I want to be around. Everything is an elevated experience for me. And so even if, for at the end of the day, like if I had to wake up every day and be motivated by something, I have to be motivated on the purpose. And the purpose driven was just elevated. So I don't want to wake up every day and have some cute name that disassociates its inner workings from myself and how I have to operate and how I have to move. So I use names and I use symbols and different things like that remind me day to day, like, this is the path we're on and this is the stair we got to climb. So we got to be elevated.
You know what? And I that's admirable. You're a gentleman and a scholar. Now I got to ask, is that because of your sports background and your fashion background, what makes you tackle cannabis with this type of brand awareness that you want to build for Elevated? Or is this something completely separate and you're just doing something brand new?
No, I think so. For the listeners, I did have a history in doing sales for a lot of known brands out of the Midwest for some years, and was successful in that. They were all urban companies or whatever. Companies like Rockaware and Shark Fit, and I'm telling my age now when I get to talk about some of this stuff.
Look, yeah, would you say that?
But yeah, I was hired. There's only about, at the time of the fashion industry, the urban fashion industry only kind of selected seven to 10 sales reps per territory. So you got your Midwest, Southeast, Southwest, West Coast, East Coast, Northeast, and all these different regions and stuff like that. So my sales territory occupied, the Midwest and all those conjoining states, and all those different accounts. I had like over 250, 300 accounts at one point. From the likes of East Bay Magazine. Shout out East Bay Magazine back in the day.
Big
and
time.
A couple different other ones that, are still around, still going. The problem with the urban industry, like everything else, a lot of the entertainers and athletes and musicians who were associated with these brands, they were just faces. They were just, the company's likeness. So I start to develop, and have good ears and good listening to the infrastructure and the inner workings of some of these companies. When I would be on these same Zoom meetings and I would be in these same boardroom meetings and I would be a fly on the wall, I was able to soak up and go to school and learn and educate myself, and didn't even know why I was in that seat at the time that I was in there. But when it came fast forward, this is very, very, very similar. So the stage that I've been on was just like this at the time. With respect to cannabis, it was even bigger. The amount of money that was coming in from fashion per territory, these events, these trainings, these different things, it was on a scale that I think cannabis will get to. It's just not there yet because, obviously with descheduling and different things like that. So the way I tackle the brand is very, very similar, in a sense to where I kind of know how and what it needs to look like. Deontay, we always talk about this.
Yeah,
I know what it needs to look like in order to be a brand that I have known to be successful in spaces where they're challenging, especially the urban community, so on and so forth. And I speak to the urban community more so because those were the brands that I represented and sold for, in my territory, in my regions. And even as good as they were, they typically only really lasted, a handful of years, in comparison to your Nikes and Adidas and your Lacoste and your Polos and all these different brands that weren't as urbanized as, your Rockawares and go down the list. They have a very, very small niche, and they have a very, very different style of how, they need to be brought to light.
Right.
And the amount of efforts, and so all these different things encompass the way the brand needs to be built up. And so I took that skill set and I took that information, and hopefully with the right situation, the right vertical, the right contributions, the right, the infrastructure, I'll be able to not only do that as effective as I did it in the past, but also, bring it to an industry that's very, very new, who hasn't really adopted these principles, who kind of is overlooking a lot of these principles, just because they think it's cannabis. And I'll be able to implement a lot of those things and hopefully make a successful national company here with cannabis.
I think the interesting thing about the answer to Deontay's question is that you didn't just wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm going to go into the cannabis business." You had years of experience working for top companies, and that was your education, that was your schooling. But even with that, as you came into the cannabis business, you still needed more.
Need a lot more. It didn't stop with me. I mean, just to highlight some of the things that I did in the Midwest, like I had a mentor. I worked for these companies, so I got paid a very, very good salary, commission salary plus salary from these situations. I was going to Vegas every couple of times. I mean, there was a lot of infrastructure needed, and it was just closed. There was a lot of infrastructure needed. So even now, which was one of the reasons why, I was hesitant and didn't want to bring the brand out too soon was because I know, the shelf life and what's required in order to bring a brand to life, in order to have a brand sustainable, in order to have a brand to be successful. I know what it needs, and I know what kind of heartbeat it needs to have. And I didn't have that. I'm not equipped with that on my own. So I was very, very hesitant to do that because I felt that the day that I did that, the brand, would die, basically. Because, you're only as good as your infrastructure.
Sure,
to be
sure.
honest.
And that's the kind of infrastructure that I think this program brings to Elevate. CPEG, with the help of March and Ash, and as I've spoken to the audience and let them know that I'm a board member of Groundworks Holding, we're bringing that infrastructure, that ecosystem to your company so that you don't have to wear as many hats as you've been wearing, and that you can get deeper into the market, or you can get into the market. Because I think prior to, how many months, has it been 6 months or less? Your product is on the shelves of every
4 months.
4 months. Okay, 4 months. Your product has been on the shelves of March and Ash, all our stores. But how long have you been in the business?
I've been in business for a long time. I got licensed in prior licensing. I think it was around first application for around 2019, around 2020. I got to look back at it, but it's been some time.
2020. So we're talking 4 or 5 years. You've been really, really hustling,
Yeah.
and you've been delivering, right? I think when we first talked to you, you were on the road delivering your product.
3 years ago, it was a different time, different situation. But yeah, I was delivering products. I was trying to get the attention of people who I felt like could help, right? And so,
Right.
The delivery was able to, get enough feedback and enough motion from the people around to reach out, shout out Reggie. So like I said, things always happen for a reason, and things happen the way they did, and they happened, pretty effectively. So it was the egg before the chicken. So I had to deliver at first. I had to make these calls. I had to get these relationships, and now we're here 3 years later, trying to take over the world.
You taking it over, man.
Hello.
It's a matter of no time. You're gonna have it over. And I think I mentioned it already at least 2 times that your product is on the shelves of March and Ash. And not only is that on the shelves, but I know, because you've told me, that you design the packaging for your product.
Yeah, I design. I have to. When you look at the costs of everything,
Yeah.
the cost that you would need to hire somebody to do certain things, you wouldn't be able to. This wouldn't happen on a grant or a budget or even a loan. It's not. You're going to be paying so many different people with so many different titles and experiences that it would be a waste of time. So I did design everything. I do design everything. I specifically want to design everything because I feel like the brand is dear to myself, and I couldn't. It's like an artist or a painting. Like I can't convey the same message that I have in my head and my heart to another person.
Right.
And so I've tried designers before.
Right.
I've tried designers just to lessen my load, and it takes more hassle and more headache to design from that seat of a person who's designing, because they get paid hourly, they get paid salary, they get paid. So there's all these different things. They don't have the same culture. They don't have the same background. They don't come from where I come. So they don't see the field as I would see it. So I can't push that out. I can't push that emotion out. So I just do it myself.
Right. Can you talk for a few minutes about just recently, as I alluded to a few minutes ago, you and your lovely wife were here in San Diego doing what's called a bud tender education, presenting your product to the bud tenders in the stores. Can you talk about that experience? What, how that felt, why you did it, and what you think is going to come from it?
So that was a great experience. Why I did it, just to be more grounded, more connected to the customers, to the bud tenders, to the heartbeat of the people who would actually be selling the product. The takeaway I got from that, I mean, was it was very, very warm. Honestly, it's something that I would want to do like very, very often, especially with stores and retailers, just to get on a more personable level. I think it's important for them to know like who the owner is and to not be that detached from the levels of ownership and companies and so on and so forth, especially since 80%, 90% of the people that I were talking to, I can tell had stores or had backgrounds that probably were similar or were closely related or had relatives or as such. So I think for me, it allowed me to connect the brand with them and their story and them with mine. And I thought that was a lot more effective than kind of playing too absent.
Yeah, yeah. And just so people don't get it twisted, we did say that you came down from Sacramento. So I'm guessing you flew down. You and Robin flew down here from Sacramento, correct?
No, so again, we drove.
9 hours, 9, 10 hours.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
more than that. I mean, you're talking there and back.
And
Yeah,
back.
it really
Okay.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
And
yeah.
because that's what it takes to be successful in this business. That's your commitment.
Hell yeah! If you ain't willing to pack your own product, design your own bags, drive, deliver, transport, source, have these conversations, not get paid, um, and then have your emotions in check, and be very, very patient. A lot of people can't do this because they don't have any patience. A lot of people
Yeah.
can't do this because
Yeah.
they're expecting immediate gratification.
Hmm.
So so you take the people who are only operating because they need to feel a certain kind of way immediately out of the equation and just tell them like, look, this might not even be something that you're going to even be able to wake up and be happy about for a few months, if not years. Like this is going to be rough for you. Like a lot of people swear they would sign up for it, but as we've seen and as I've seen, um, once things don't happen the right or the way that people want, the wrong person reacts in a way that is very, very telling,
Hmm.
on their personality, on their willingness to continue, and so on and so forth. And I think the shining lights are always the ones that kind of like keep their head above the water and make sure like their energy is in check. I'm big on energy.
Anything special you'd like the listeners to look for when they go into a March and Ash store? I mean, ideally, what I think you'd want them to do is bust into the store and say, "Hey, I want Derek's product. I want Elevate."
Hello.
Anything special you'd like to leave with them in terms of the product and what they might experience?
Um, I'd like the people to just take a page out of I guess a deeper connection, if that makes sense. There's so many different people with different personalities and stuff like that, but just an opportunity for a consumer to have a closely, I guess, relatable experience, not only with the flower and the brand and the mission. I think there's so many things that contribute to the final product. I think there's a lot more important than just the product itself. I mean, we can go down the list of all the products that are on shelves, and if you haven't met the owner, if you haven't listened to the owner speak, if you haven't seen or touched or felt the owner's presence, if you haven't experienced some of the trials and tribulations the owners have been through in order to get this far, and what they do on their own, as well as the mission, as well as this, as well as the contributions. I think it's a body of work, and so when you get through all that turbulence and you realize like this is a normal person, this is a normal situation, he has normal situations he's been through, um, and then you get to the product, and the product is it's not, for lack of better terms, the wig on the pig. It's actually a product that was sought after. It was very, very good product. It was quality controlled. It was checked. It was, I mean, all these different things went
Right.
into it. So it's more than just a product.
Mm-hmm.
It's an experience. It's the brand. It's elevated. It's such as higher frequencies.
Speaking of that, how would I'm sure that after listening to you, folks are going to want to get in touch with you, not just because of the product, which is important, but your journey is tremendous. I mean, that's probably another podcast all in itself. Yeah. So how would folks get in touch with you?
You can find me on Instagram. That's elevated. That's ELEVATD. Supply SUPPLY. Follow me. I'll write back.
You know, I really appreciate you, Derek, for spending some time with us and talking about your brand, talking about the significance of social equity and the Cannabis Private Equity Program. And we look forward to a very, 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 very long relationship. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And I'm hoping that the before the next time you come out, we can, do a plug on my podcast to say, hey, Derek's coming out and he's going to be here, here, and here. And more folks will come out to see you and Robin and talk with you. As we get to the end of our program, I'm going to turn to my co-host and ask him for some final words that you'd like to impart.
Yes, I love the fact that Derek is standing strong and gave the proper message to all solo entrepreneurs that you're not the only one alone. You're not the only one that does not have an ecosystem. There's somebody that's on shelves at March and Ash that's shelling that needs the same things that you need. That's why CPEG is so important, because now you have a partner that's able to handle all these and give you safety nets to be able to prolong. So I think it's great. Dr. Leroy, it's always a pleasure just sitting across from you. Always.
This is crazy being with you, man. this is I'm living the dream.
Easy killer.
Living the dream. Hey everybody, thanks for listening. You can enjoy this podcast and all of my podcasts and all of Deontay's podcasts.
The Dodi Connection, hello.
There you go. On Olus Media. For me, you can reach mine at cannabisenlightened.com. You can reach me in terms of sending an email or just asking some questions at Dr. Leroy at cannabisenlightened.com. And before I leave, Deontay, how can folks reach you?
Instagram, it is 33THOUWOW33thou. Go ahead and bang that. Hello. I'll tap back.
All right. And remember, everybody remember that knowledge is power, and the knowledge that Derek amassed is powerful and continues to be powerful. And the knowledge that we amassed putting together Cannabis Private Equity Program with March and Ash is power.
Yeah,
right?
It is. Big power.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And we'll see you the next time on Cannabis Enlightened. Out.
Thank you for listening to the Cannabis in Line podcast, sponsored by March and Ash. If you're interested in exploring more about the products and services offered at March and Ash, be sure to visit their website at marchandash.com. Cannabis in Line is produced in San Diego, California. Jessica Garcia serves as a general manager, Elia Ramos as the creative director, JC Polk as executive producer, Lena Alvarez assists with production, and Chad Peace, who is a president and founding partner. To learn more about March and Ash and their premium cannabis products, visit their website at marchandash.com. This podcast is a production of Olas Media. Thank you for listening.
Olas Media.
Come to March and Ash on 4/20, Saturday, April 20th for 25% off store-wide. Plus, when you spend $75, you'll receive a goodie box for $1. This goodie box is valued at over $75. For more information, visit marchandash.com.
Ever notice how much birds and fundraisers are alike? One flies around the world singing melodies for all to hear but rarely understood. The other one lives in a nest. If you want to hear from some phenomenal birds, join me, Charity Jen, on the From the Nest podcast, where fundraising takes flight. Find it wherever you get your podcasts or subscribe at olasmedia.com.